My mom always said the woods could hold a secret longer than any person could. I didn't believe her. Not really, until I went back there. Back to the house I hadn't seen since I was 17. Back to the woods I'd grown up walking through like they were a second home. It had been 12 years since I left. I only returned because my mom had passed and someone needed to clean out the property and get it listed. The house was still in her name, untouched all. This time, a crooked little 2-story tucked behind a line of thick pine, 10 miles outside, nearest town in northern Maine. I drove in from Boston after my last hospital shift, bleary-eyed and exhausted, but I figured I could handle a night or two in the old place before calling an agent. The house hadn't changed. Still smelled like cedar, dust, and whatever wood polish she used when I was a kid. The kind of house that creaks at night, not from age, but from memory. Didn't feel comfortable, but I didn't feel scared either. Not yet. I slept in my old bedroom the first night. The bed was still there. Same mattress, same headboard with little scratch marks where I used to tape up posters. I didn't unpack much. Just my overnight bag and a change of scrubs in case I needed to leave fast. The first thing that made me pause was the back door. It was locked, but the bottom hinge looked loose, like it had been forced before. I figured it was just weather or rot. But that night, I woke up at 2:14 a.m., not to a sound, not exactly. It was a rhythm, like breathing, but from somewhere it shouldn't be. It was coming from under the floorboards. Now, if you'd asked me even a year ago, I'd have said that was impossible. Just an old house. Groaning, but it wasn't. This breathing was steady. Inhale, exhale, like someone sleeping directly beneath my bed. I got out of bed slowly, stepped onto the hardwood. The breathing stopped the second my foot hit the floor. I waited. Waited again. Nothing. I chalked it up to my imagination, grabbed my flashlight, and went downstairs, barefoot and irritated, ready to swing if I had to. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I checked the basement door. It was locked, but the chain latch, the one my mom had installed when I was 8 after I swore I shadow standing by. The water heater was broken, cleanly snapped. There were muddy footprints on the steps. Not mine, not fresh, but there. I didn't go down. I didn't want to know. Instead, I shut that door, stacked a chair against it, and went back upstairs. I didn't sleep. At dawn, I walked the entire property. Nothing. No tire tracks. No signs of anyone. Except for a pile of stacked stones about 20 feet into the trees. That part stopped me. Because when I was a kid, I used to stack rocks just like that in the woods. It was my way of pretending I could trap ghosts. I hadn't been back there since the day I saw something crouching behind a birch tree. Something that didn't move right. I was 9. That night, second night, I slept in the living room with a knife in my hand and the flashlight pointed at the basement door. The breathing came back, but this time it was closer, louder, almost wet. It didn't come from under the floor. It came from inside the wall behind the couch. At that point, I lost it. I started banging on the walls, yelling. I even turned the TV on full volume, just to drown it out. Eventually, it stopped. But the next morning, there was something new on the front porch. A small pile of river stones, and a single baby tooth placed on top. I left that day, didn't pack, didn't shower, just got in my car and drove straight to Bangor and didn't stop until I hit Portland. I called a local service to list the house. Told them I didn't care about the price, just get it off my hands. 3 weeks later, I got a call. The cleaning crew refused to finish the job. They found a sealed crawl space in the basement. Inside it, A blanket, 3 chewed pencils, and a photo of me from prom night with the eyes scratched out. I'm not going back. I don't care if the place rots into the dirt. Some secrets don't want to stay buried. And I think the woods know that better than anyone. I only started fixing things in the unit next door because I thought no one lived there. It was Duplex, one of those older single-story buildings built back in the late 60s, simple layout too. Identical units side by side, split by a thin drywall partition and a shared crawl space underneath. Nothing fancy, but it was quiet. And after the divorce, quiet was all I wanted. My ex kept the house, the SUV, and the dog. I took my toolbox and moved 2 counties over. Found this place. Listed by an old lady who was just happy to have someone quiet and reliable. I won't even charge you for the water, she said. Just don't throw parties and don't bring drama. It sounded perfect. The unit next to mine had been vacant for about 8 months, according to her. She said she used to rent it out to her nephew, but he left town in a rush and hadn't come back. Since, that was her exact phrase. Left town in a rush. Anyway, I moved in mid-October. The kind of season where the days start dying early and the nights stretch out like they've got something to hide. I spent the first week unpacking slowly, taking my time. I wasn't in a rush to fill the space. I think part of me liked how empty it felt, like it was just me and the walls and the silence in between. About 5 or 6 nights in, I heard noise. It was late, close to midnight. I was in bed reading when I heard it. A thump, not a creak, not a pop, not the usual old house symphony. A thump, like something solid hitting the wall behind my headboard. The wall that connected to the other unit. I sat up, waited, nothing. Maybe something fell from a shelf, I thought. Or maybe I dropped something earlier and didn't notice. The next morning, I walked outside and glanced over at the neighbor's side. Nothing. Strange. Curtains drawn. Front door locked. I walked around to the back and peeked through. The rear window. It was empty, mostly. There was a lamp in the corner and what looked like a rolled-up rug against the wall, but no furniture. No signs of anyone living there. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. A few days later, I started hearing noises more regularly. Scraping, soft tapping. Once, what sounded like someone dragging something across the floor. I knocked on the wall once, just to test a theory, and immediately heard a knock. Back, same rhythm, same tempo. My blood turned to slush. I didn't move for a full minute. When I finally did, I grabbed my flashlight and went around again. This time I tried the doorknob. Locked, but I noticed something strange. The curtain inside the living room window had been pulled slightly open, just a few inches, enough to peek out. It hadn't been like that before. I called the landlady, asked her, casually, if anyone had been by to check on the other unit. She paused and then said no, then added, "But you're not the first to ask me that." That night, I couldn't sleep. Not just because of the sounds, although they were louder than ever, but because of what I found in the crawl space. See, the washer in my unit started leaking. The maintenance guy wasn't coming till next week, and I thought I'd be proactive and at least shut off the valve. Access was through the crawl space under the duplex, a small square door in the back closet. I got down there around 9 p.m., flashlight in one hand, wrench in the other. The air down there smelled stale and bitter, like copper and mold. I followed the pipes, crouching low, adjusting my light. And that's when I noticed it, a pair of footprints in the dirt, bare feet, leading from my side to the other unit. and back again. No other marks, no tools, just the prints. I followed them, because of course I did. I crept along the narrow underside of the house until I reached the far end, where the other unit's water heater was located. Right next to it, wedged into the far wall, was something I didn't expect. A small wooden hatch. Not part of the original build. It looked handmade, old. The kind of thing you seal shut because you're afraid of what's behind it, not because you're trying to keep a draft out. The hinges were rusted, but the hatch was ajar. I moved closer and shone the light inside. It was a tight square room, maybe 5 feet wide, dug into the earth like a bunker. On the ground was a mattress, a few empty food cans, a pile of clothing that looked damp, and in the corner, a stack of Polaroids. I didn't touch them, didn't have to, because I could already tell that most of them were of me. In my unit, sleeping, shaving. The last one, the one on top, was from that morning. Me, brushing my teeth in the bathroom, taken through the window. With a flash, I got out of there faster than I've ever moved, locked the crawl space, double-locked every door and window, slept with a hammer under my pillow. I didn't know what to do. I mean, who do? You call about something like that? But here's where it gets worse. The next morning, I heard shuffling in the unit next door, and then a shower running, like someone had just woken up and started their day. I didn't wait this time. I called the cops. They showed up 20 minutes later, 2 squad cars and a K9. They forced the door open, searched the entire unit, and came back out empty-handed. Nothing there, one of them said. No bed, no power, no water. Place hasn't been used in months. I told them about the crawl space. They checked it, found the prints, found the hatch. But the bunker? Gone. Just filled in with dirt, like it had never been there. The photos were gone too. Every one of them. They took a report, gave me a card, told me to call if I saw anything else. I moved out that weekend. Didn't even wait for the lease to end. I didn't care about the deposit. I just wanted out. That was 6 months ago. And last night, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. No stamp. Just slid under the door of my new apartment. Inside was a Polaroid of me on my couch from behind the blinds. And on the back, written in tiny, cramped handwriting, "You shouldn't have fixed the water heater." They told me no one else had the keys, but I saw the elevator moving every night. I got the job through a friend of a friend. Technically freelance, but it paid well. $28 an hour to sit in an office and walk a circuit twice a night. Simple gig. No coworkers, no customers, just me and a flashlight. They needed someone reliable to monitor an abandoned retail plaza on the east end of town. The kind of place that used to be booming in the early 2000s. Now, just a forgotten stretch of dusty windows and busted neon signs. Most of the stores had been gutted. The power was kept running only for the cameras, hallway lights, and a single working elevator. The one in the old 2-story department store at the far end of the plaza. It was the only thing that bugged me, that elevator. Because every night, between 2 o'clock and 2:15 a.m. I'd hear it ding. No one else was ever there. No one was supposed to be there. The first time I heard it, I figured maybe the system was glitching. After all, the place had been out of use for years. But then it happened again. Same time. Ding. And a mechanical whir. Then silence. I reported it to the maintenance contact, a guy named Frank, who was always too tired to care. "Yeah, we've had issues with that panel before," he said. Don't worry about it. Just stay out of that building and do your rounds. So I did what I was told, for a while, but you can only ignore something like that for so long, especially when it starts to feel like it's noticing you. Here's what I mean. On my fourth night, I was doing my walk, basic loop, exterior wall of the fall, old arcade, past the vacant food court, then through the side corridor of the department store. Normally, I'd hear the ding and keep walking, but this time I heard two dings, one at 2:13, another at 2:14. The second one was louder, closer, and when I passed the service hallway, near the freight entrance, the elevator doors were open. I hadn't touched a single switch. No one else was on site. The air smelled different in that hallway, like damp metal and soil. And inside the elevator, the floor was covered in muddy footprints, bare feet, small ones, child-sized. I didn't go in. I took a photo from a few steps away and backed off. Called Frank again and told him exactly what I saw. His reply? If the doors are open, just shut them. They stick sometimes. I don't think he even heard me when I mentioned the footprints. I should have left the job right then. But I was between places, living out of a rental room, trying to stack cash for a deposit. I needed this gig, so I stayed. The next night, I came in early. Around 9:30, I wanted to check the elevator before the usual hour. It was already closed. Clean. No mud. Nothing on the cameras either. I rewound the feed 3 times. The elevator hadn't opened once in the last 24 hours, so I set up a little test. I took a piece of duct tape and ran it across the center of the doors. Then I taped a thread between the frame and the panel. If it opened, I'd know. 2:13 amen ding. I got up from my chair and looked at the monitors. Camera 4. Department store hallway. Showed the doors sliding open. Camera 5. Inside the elevator. Showed the light flick on, but the tape was still intact. So was the thread. From the control room, the hallway was silent. No echo, no wind, no hum of motion. I walked there myself. That's when I saw it. The doors were wide open, and inside, the elevator was full of water. A thin layer, maybe an inch deep. It was still, not rippling, not leaking, just sitting there, floating in the yaw. Water, perfectly upright, was a single black rain boot. I didn't touch it. I didn't take a photo. I just shut the doors and went back to the office. At this point, I was sleeping during the day with the light on. I started waking up with nosebleeds, headaches, and a weird static buzzing in my left ear. My landlord said it might be stress or mold. I said maybe, but I didn't tell him about the screaming I was starting to hear in the walls. 3 days later, I did something I regret. I stayed in the elevator. I wanted to prove to myself that it was just faulty wiring, a loop in the system, maybe even my own sleep-deprived brain making too much of a bad job. I stood inside the car at 1:59 a.m. downed, with a flashlight, a stopwatch, and a growing sense of nausea. The floor was dry again. The buttons lit up fine. I pressed nothing. 2:12. Silence. 2:13. Ding. The lights flickered. 2:14. Ding. The elevator jolted. Downward, even though no button had been pressed. I tried to step out, but the doors slammed shut. The light inside turned red. Not emergency red. Not any color I've ever seen in. An elevator. It was deeper, almost organic. The walls of the car started to feel softer, like the insulation was pulsing beneath the metal. Then the floor got wet, like it was sweating from. Underneath, the air went hot, then freezing, then hot again. Then a sound. Not a scream, not a voice. Just this long, sucking inhale, like something huge waking up. When the doors opened again, I wasn't in the building anymore. I mean, physically, I was still in the department store elevator. But the walls were different, covered in post-it notes, hundreds of them, all handwritten, all in the same ink. I scanned a few. Each one said the same thing. She's not done yet. Don't look at her eyes. The rain is inside. Then I saw one that made me drop my flashlight because it was written in my handwriting. It said, "Don't trust the mirror." I don't know how long I stood there. The elevator hummed again, and the next time it opened, I was back in the building. 2:16 a.m. like nothing had happened. But when I looked in the elevator mirror, I saw a small wet handprint on my shoulder. I quit that night, left my badge, keys, and radio in the office, drove an hour out of town. Didn't tell Frank, didn't tell anyone. Week later, the shopping plaza burned down. Electrical fire, they said. Started near the elevator shaft. No one died, because no one was supposed to be there. But I got a voicemail that night from an unknown number. All it said was, "Second floor, please." And then a ding. The woman upstairs never made a sound until the night I heard her sobbing through the floor. I live on the second floor of a quiet walk-up building. 3 floors total, 6 units in all. It's the kind of place you'd scroll past online and forget immediately. Beige siding, narrow stairs, no. Lobby, just your name on a mailbox and a sticker on the intercom that barely works. After working remote for the last year, I needed a change of pace. Something new, so I left the city and found this unit about 40 minutes out in a smaller town. It was furnished, clean, cheap, and above all, quiet, or so I thought. For the first month, I didn't hear a single sound from the apartment above me. Nothing. Not even footsteps. The ceiling didn't creak. No late-night music. No laughter. Not even plumbing. Sounds. I assumed it was vacant. Maybe the landlord hadn't found a tenant yet, but when I asked him during a maintenance visit, he said, "Oh no, that's Miss Lancaster. Been there for years. Keeps to herself." I said nothing, but it struck me as strange. Years, and not a single audible sign of life? The first time I heard her was at exactly 3:42 a.m. I remember because I looked at my phone the moment it woke me. Sobbing, not weeping, not crying, just this low, muffled sobbing, as if someone was curled up directly above my bed, pressing their face into the floor. I sat there frozen. It lasted for maybe 2 full minutes, then silence again. No footsteps, no doors, just silence. I waited until morning, went about my day like normal, convincing myself it was something else. A neighbor's TV, a bad dream, maybe even my own thoughts bouncing around in a sleep-deprived brain. But the next night, same time, it happened again. 3:42 a.m. Sobbing, same sound, same spot. Like it was intentional. This time, I walked into the hallway and listened at the ceiling. Nothing. Not even after waiting 5 whole minutes. Ceiling light above me buzzed softly, but otherwise, the air felt thick and still. I decided to knock on her door the next day, just to check in. I didn't want to be weird about it. I wasn't accusing her of anything, but I figured, hey, maybe she's going through something. Maybe she's older, maybe she needs help. So I climbed to the 3rd floor just after noon. The hallway smelled faintly of mothballs and cold dust. Her door was the last one on the right. 3B. I knocked twice. No answer. I waited, knocked again, just as I was about to walk away. I heard something on the other side. Not footsteps, something dragging. like heavy cloth being pulled across the floor. And the peephole darkened. Someone was clearly looking through from the inside. I waved awkwardly. The peephole stayed dark for another few seconds, then lightened again. No one answered. No sound followed. I went back downstairs feeling, I don't know, wrong. Not scared, just uneasy. Like I'd violated some unspoken rule I didn't know existed. That night, the sobbing didn't happen. But the next night, it did. Exactly 3:42 a.m. only, this time. It sounded closer, like it had moved into the walls. Now I was spooked. I didn't sleep. I kept my light on and spent most of the night pacing my kitchen. I even went outside and looked up at her windows. They were covered in blackout curtains, drawn shut, not a crack of light coming through. At 4 a.m., I finally sat back down on the couch, trying to breathe through the anxiety. That's when my phone lit up. No caller ID, just one line of text. You shouldn't have knocked. Stared at the screen. No contact info. No reply possible. Just that message, sitting there like a threat written in lowercase. I tried blocking the number, but there was no number to block. It was just gone. At this point, I stopped sleeping normally. Started leaving the apartment during the day just to escape the feeling of being watched. I thought maybe I was spiraling. Working from home meant I barely saw people anymore. Maybe I was imagining things. I even booked a session with a therapist. But then something happened that I couldn't explain away. I came home one evening and noticed the ceiling in my bedroom looked wrong. Not damaged, just slightly off. Like it had been painted over recently, but only in a perfect square, directly above my bed. When I got closer, I saw that the paint was flaking in one spot. Just a little. So I grabbed a stepladder, climbed up, and picked at the edge with my fingernail. What came off wasn't paint. It was duct tape. And beneath it was a small hole drilled clean through the ceiling. Someone had been watching me sleep. I covered the hole immediately. Then I called the landlord and demanded answers. He swore up and down he didn't know anything about it. Said no. Maintenance had been done in that unit in years. Sighed Ms. Lancaster never lets anyone in, not even him. That night, I didn't sleep in my bed. I stayed on the couch with the TV playing quietly and a kitchen knife on the coffee table. 3:42 a.m., no sobbing. But I heard footsteps, heavy ones, coming down the stairs outside my unit. Then a knock, not at the door, at the window. I froze, didn't move, didn't breathe. I waited. After about 30 seconds, I heard the footsteps retreat up the stairs, and then sobbing. But this time, it came from inside the apartment. I spun around. The hallway behind me was empty, but the bathroom door was slightly ajar. I crept toward it, slow, heart thundering in my chest. I pushed the door open. Nothing. No one inside. Just a wet footprint, bare, small, facing the wall. I moved out the next morning, left half my stuff behind. Didn't even ask for the deposit. A few weeks later, I checked the local property records. Ms. Lancaster? She died in 2017, and no one had lived in 3B since.